Seeing as we stop, we'll call the meeting to order. We have a pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I have a motion for approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Ed? Mark? Any comments, corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Has everyone had a chance to look at the bills, including the highway department bills and the list that was added? Any other questions?
Motion to approve the bills.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Brown. Olson.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Martins.
Aye.
Iceland.
Aye. And everybody get a chance to look at the financial report? Anything new or different that we should be aware of then?
Everything is on schedule.
Motion to approve.
You need roll call, please? Yes. Roll call, please.
Martins.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Iceland.
Aye. Financial reports are approved. And we'll go to the treasurer's checks. Anything different on that one?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Brown.
Aye.
Martins.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Iceland.
Aye. Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda other than listed? I would entertain a motion to, under old business, discuss the FEMA property in Eagle Bend. That's under, that would be under old business.
You want a motion for that? I'll make a motion to do that.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Visitors and delegations, do we have anyone here who would like to speak? Paul,
Yes, ma'am.
you're up.
Good morning. Once again, my name is Paul Deegan. I'm the husband of Danny Deegan, former Director of Law Enforcement. This is my second attendance to a Ramsey County Commission meeting, as well as my second attempt to speak to you, the board, in open dialogue on this matter. I'd like to begin this morning's session by answering the questions that I posed last February 16th when you weren't here, Mrs. Heisler. If you remember, I asked two questions, and they're going to be hard questions. The first question was whether or not Ms. Myrna Heisler was still having the Ramsey County Sheriff conduct illegal background checks on people, and if either one of them had been held accountable. My second question was whether or not the four counties and the city board were aware that Mr. Brown made the suggestion during a county meeting that they were going to house Ramsey County inmates only. Those are my two questions. Regarding question number one, of course, I don't know if this is still a continued practice. However, I do know that both of you have not been held accountable. This information was turned over to the Bureau of Criminal Investigation and then on to the state's attorney, Mr. Lonnie Olson, to which nothing was done. So apparently it is truly who you know. Regarding question number two, the city board and other counties did not know about that statement. I'm sure they do now. Coincidentally or not, there is a special 5-county meeting at the Ramsey County Courthouse on the 3rd of March at 10:30. I highly recommend anybody in the public attend, as it does affect the city and the county members. Whether or not the board here cares, Mrs. Deegan was literally crucified in the news, media, and paper for issues that were happening at the LEC that were nothing more than a personal grudge from several employees and a certain Ramsey County Commissioner. That's you, Mr. Mark Olson. Accusations from the board range that she stated that she was incompetent at her job to being biased due to family members that also worked at the LAC. I definitely like to begin with that thought first. Mrs. Deegan was a 20-year employee at the LAC, and to claim that she was incompetent is literally ridiculous. Our mayor and former LAC director, Mr. Dick Johnson, fully supported Mrs. Deegan in that position and adamantly pushed for her to apply for it. She had little to no adverse actions in her file during that 20-year period. This file is still available at the LAC to any commissioner, possibly the media as well as the public under open records laws. I suggest anyone truly interested make that request and take a look for yourself instead of listening to a biased local media. Due to the time constraints, I'm only going to be addressing one of the perceived issues at this particular meeting, that being high staff turnover. As mentioned before in countless meetings, corrections is a truly thankless job and difficult as well. Many people don't make it longer than a year. And in case you think this is a Devils Lake Law Enforcement Center issue only, all you gotta do is look around the state and see that law enforcement, specifically corrections, is always a high turnover. You learn real quick whether it's a job suited for you or not. At this point, I would like to ask Myrna a question. Do you happen to know what the numbers of correction staff turnover is currently for the LAC?
I've been instructed not to reply to any questions you ask. Thank you.
Understood, thank you. This is one of your biggest premises of attack against Mrs. Deegan when she was the director. So if it was an issue then, why is it not an issue now? I will know by the next meeting. It's going to be open to the public, so I'll make that request. And I've been in contact with several facilities around the state, state pen, several detention facilities, etc. So I'll have that information for you next time around. Need I remind anybody of the issues that the jail's had in the past year? Some of the more terrible ones, there was an intoxicated suicidal man who died in custody for not being monitored correctly. He was found in stages of full rigor mortis, and I don't know if anybody knows how long that takes to happen, but depending on the individual and depending on the ambient temperature of the surroundings, anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. Now, in follow-up to that question, does anybody know the time schedule where you're supposed to have an actual physical and visual check on a suicidal subject at the LAC? The answer is every 5 minutes. Okay, so how did that happen? Even if the subject was intoxicated and not suicidal, as the current director suggested, that check is supposed to be done every 15 minutes. So again, how did that happen? Let's not forget the escape of a federal prisoner with the assistance of a corrections officer, a female corrections officer. There was most recently another corrections officer fired for being under the influence of drugs while on duty at the jail. Inmate walk-offs, low inmate count, and high staff turnover still being an issue. Now I ask you, can anyone here tell me during Mrs. Deegan's tenure how many inmate suicides or federal escapes happened? None. Not one. Mrs. Deegan made requests to the board to come review her files during numerous LAC meetings to review staff turnover, funding problems, as well as other perceived issues at the LAC jail. The only person who ever came was Mr. Bill Mertens. Again, I thank you for that, Bill. But why wouldn't Bill come, right? He was the LAC board chair member, or chairperson at the time. He was the direct link from the law enforcement center to everybody here who was on the Ramsey County board at the time. So if there were any questions, any concerns, any issues that you gentlemen and ladies had here with the LAC, with what was happening, why didn't you go and talk to her about it? But if it's information you didn't really care to know anyway, I guess why would you? Instead, Mr. Mark Olson made the motion to terminate Mrs. Deegan at a board meeting that was held on 15 August 2014, which is also available on YouTube. Mr. Mertens disagreed for this motion and subsequently was dismissed as LAC board chairman. Now, I'm no politician, but I don't know what the legality is to that. It should be noted that other county LAC board members were then contacted by Ed and Myrna, pressuring them to vote for Mrs. Deegan's termination. These commissioners that disagreed were threatened with removal from the LAC board as well. Each one of them were replaced with alternates that agreed to vote for the termination beforehand. This explains the unprecedented number of alternates that happened to be at that meeting that particular day Mrs. Deegan was terminated. What is the legality of this? The board knew full well that there was going to be a 5-county special meeting with an investigator that was called in specifically for the purpose of investigating Mrs. Deegan and Mrs. Hoyle and how they were running the law enforcement center and if there were going to be any issues. That meeting wasn't allowed to happen. Why not? Obviously, it would have been found in their favor. So Mr. Ed Brown was nominated into LAC chair position, was later quoted after an LAC board meeting saying we need to get a man in here to run this place. A very interesting and illegal remark to say the least. But on the plus side, Ed, at least we know exactly where you stand on women in the workplace, don't we? It seems that both Mrs. Deegan and Mrs. Hoyle had issues with this kind of treatment from the beginning of their tenure. They were always called the girls. Comments were made to them as if they can't stand the heat to get out of the kitchen. Not only unprofessional, but illegal on the grounds of equal rights, sexual harassment, and discrimination. So honestly, if you were part of that, shame on you. Interestingly enough, when Mrs. Deegan was hired into the director's position, she took the job at $80,000 a year less than it was originally stated for. To Mrs. Deegan's credit, this did not bother her. When asked if she wanted to know how much the job paid, she replied to Mr. Strami, Mr. Craig Strami, that it wasn't important to her and that she just wanted to do her job. Now let's add insult to that injury. When the new director was hired, he was hired at $20,000 more than she was hired for. And why? Literally no corrections or 911 dispatch whatsoever. Lastly, I'd like to discuss the decision of the board to incorporate by motion and by passing of that motion to have exit interviews conducted. This was a demand of Mr. Mark Olson to question staff at the jail, or at the LAC, I should say, if they had been terminated or quit on their own accord, to have a sit-down discussion as to why they had been fired or why they had decided to quit. Specifically, it was alluded that the high staff turnover that I mentioned earlier was due to the new administration, due to Mrs. Deegan and Mrs. Hoyle. It should be noted that the LAC's human resource rep had already contacted many of these individuals and nothing was found out of the ordinary. These findings caused Ramsey County to begin attacking her at a Ramsey County meeting as well, specifically by Verna Heisler. This meeting can also be viewed on YouTube as well, 28 September 2014. It should be noted that Mrs. Wheeler's salary at the time was around $1,200 a month with no benefits, which is what she agreed to, not an issue. While working at the LAC, after this being coupled with what was being done to the current administration, she decided to put in a resignation. Specifically, her words were for her own well-being. Interestingly enough, recently Ramsey County realized the need for a human resources person and discovered bringing on another person at $50,000 plus a year. What does this mean? Not only does it account for her pay, but it includes insurance, vacation, sick leave, retirement match, etc. The board keeps talking about saving money. How exactly is it doing so? It should be noted that Mrs. Wheeler did state personally that if this position had been given to her or suggested that she take it, that she would decline it due to the past actions of the board. So Mark, you know what my next question is going to be, right? Why was Mrs. Deegan not afforded an exit interview?
Sir, I believe your 5 minutes are up.
I am closing. I have about a paragraph left, if that's okay.
That'll be fine.
Thank you, ma'am. She was on doctored ordered medical leave. Key personnel knew where she was at all times. That includes the LAC board chair, co-chair, Mr. Strami, and the human resource person, Mrs. Tommy Wheeler, basically her first-line supervisors. Mark, you had the audacity to claim that she was on the beach in Mexico, possibly even on administrative leave. You were part of the LAC board, part of the Ramsey County board. This has been a decision voted on by the board. So if she'd been on administrative leave, you probably would have known that. Who's truly the incompetent one here? And this is my last paragraph, so I thank you for the extra time. But I saw a post on Facebook here last week as the numbers to this meeting keep getting viewed and keep getting higher. And one of the comments really offended me. It actually said, take a look at Ramsey County Board being called out by one of their own. Initially, I was really offended by this because there's some of you who are in this room and on this board that I don't wish to be associated with whatsoever. Okay, but the more I thought about it, I thought maybe they mean one of their own as a Ramsey County member, you know, trying to fight for what's right and asking the hard and right questions. It gives me a little bit of solace and a little bit of peace, but not enough to keep coming back to meetings to address this. Do you have any questions for me before I step down?
Any other visitors who wish to speak?
I guess I'd like to address the board, tell them that we did send invitations out for our annual spring breakfast this Saturday. And I want to make sure everybody knows about it, and you're all welcome to be there. We start at 7 a.m. and we clean up the shop, and all our employees will be there, so that's all I had. I just want to make sure the board's aware of it.
Some of us were there last year, it's a very good breakfast.
Thank you. That's all I had. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Deb. Next on the agenda, we have Todd Listening. He is here to talk with us about testimony at the site that in Pierce County, I believe. So one of our commissioners was at that meeting in Pierce County along with our emergency manager, and I want to thank them both for attending. But I think it's information that's important to the entire board. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me here today. Just a little insight into the problem that the United States is facing, that there's large amounts of nuclear waste being stored on site at these nuclear facilities. Temporarily, they have to store all their nuclear waste at the facilities until a permanent storage can be obtained. They're stored in containers. Some are just shallow below the ground surface. Some are stored in water pools, mainly to control climate and temperature, so this nuclear waste is highly activated and can heat and cause problems. Currently, some of these containers are starting to deteriorate after time, and they're having an issue. Thus, they're looking for places to put it. Some of you heard there's a storage facility that was designed in Yucca Mountain for this. It's a hollowed out mountain with different rooms for storing this nuclear waste. And since that has turned, that is not feasible or usable. So now they're looking for alternative sources. And the DOE is currently believes that storage in a deep borehole below the ground surface, way down in the crystalline rock. Their plans are to drill holes of 5 kilometers or 3.1 miles and put this nuclear waste in capsules and store it down below the Earth's surface in this crystalline surface. And they're going to store it in the bottom approximate 2 kilometers of this borehole and then cap it and seal it. That is the DOE's solution to the problem today. So that leads us to why they're going to North Dakota to look at this. In North Dakota, they feel is one of the more stable locations for this rock. They're trying to avoid locations where there's high seismic activity, earthquake, fault type situations, volcanic solutions and stuff like that. So that's why they're looking at North Dakota as being a more stable and solid place for this to be stored. So as we show a map here, and I'll pass this around, you can all look at it and check it out. But this yellow line is kind of where it divides our state for where they want to store this. Anything east of that yellow line, and that line would kind of run in the line from Highway 14 around Sterling, and it would kind of follow a highway all the way up to west of Botno, is where this line is located. And the reason they really don't want to go west of this line is because of a lot of the oil boring and the fracking that's going on that would cause seismic activity down to screw up that. So this is a map of where they're going to go. The yellow star is their proposed site that they want to go into in Pierce County. So I can pass that around. As the ground surface goes down, there's approximately 6,500 feet of what they call a sediment rock. And that's a finer rock that is, silted in with the glaciers and this and that. And below that 6,500 feet is where they run into this crystalline rock for storage. So that brings us to, what happened in Rugby? What happened in Pierce County? Well, this was planned and thought of for quite a few years now. Because Yucca Mountain got shut down in 2010, but this has actually been in the lookings since before that. The residents of Pierce County didn't know anything about this really until an article came out in the Bismarck Tribune on January 15th. And it was, stated in that article, it said scientists plan to use state land owned near Rugby to test whether crystalline rock can be used to store nuclear waste. That was the first paragraph in that article. And Department of Energy has awarded $35 million for a 5-year contract to Battelle Memorial Institution to drill a 3-mile deep hole in Pierce County and to study that. They're going to drill an 8.5-inch hole, 3.5 miles deep. And the Battelle is joined in with the EERC, the Energy Environmental Research Center, which is a based unit out of University of North Dakota in Grand Forks in research. And they got on board Schoenberg's, which is a boring company out of Texas, which is currently located in western North Dakota today. So they're on board to drill this hole, if approved. And they drill the 8.5-inch hole, and they're going to do the studies of the rocks, and they're going to study. And one of the main reasons they're studying this is they want to see if they can drill a perfectly vertical hole. Because a lot of the wells or the holes you'll see, they'll go down and they'll angle as they go down. They're not perfectly vertical hole. If they can find this as a viable way of drilling, they're going to drill a second hole. And they'll obtain funds up to $80 million to drill a second hole, which is 17-inch diameter. So that 17-inch diameter hole, coincidentally, is about the same size hole as the new capsules they're designing to replace the ones that are deteriorating right now. So that was the first knowledge that Pierce County got out of that paper. On January 29th, the state land boards had a meeting. 2 representatives or 2 commissioners from Pierce County went to that meeting. That's where they were first personally contacted by any of these agencies about this drilling in Pierce County. Kind of short notice. By the way, they were planning on starting drilling in September. So on February 2nd, there's a group of us concerned citizens in Pierce County that kind of got together, and we went in with the county commissioners and we expressed our concerns about nuclear waste being deposited in our backyards. And in that meeting, the county commissioners drew up a temporary moratorium to stop any deep borehole drilling. And they let, they had to write it a little bit to make it work, but yeah, that's a temporary moratorium and it can be fixed. This is a copy of it. And it allows water wells up to 1,000 feet, which is more than sufficient, but it does eliminate any deep boring without consent from the county commissioners and our county zoning board. Upon that approval, they can do drilling. So at least they have to stop there first. So after February 2nd's meeting, after they signed this temporary moratorium, another meeting was lined up with the EERC and the other corporations, the DOE, whatever, they were all invited. They all came up to give an information and try to promote their project. And prior to that meeting, they scheduled a meeting with the city council to propose it. And the night before this meeting, they had an open house forum for the public. And it was basically an open house deal where they set up a bunch of, bulletin boards and this and that, and they, question answer type deal, just a one-on-one, not a presentation. So they were just trying to, fill out the community at this point. The morning following is the morning when Mark and your emergency manager were there to obtain the meeting. There was they gave a presentation on how they're boring and what their plans were. And their sole purpose of doing this particular bore was solely for research and checking. Upon their presentation, it was open to questions. There was 2 or 3 people who were interested in the science and the research, and that is understandable. But most of it was, the reason for the research is solely to put nuclear waste down. So if they're coming in there to drill an $80 million hole, why wouldn't you put something in it? So there is laws currently in the state of North Dakota to stop nuclear waste from being deposited in the soils. But a resolution, you can go in and file for a resolution, and the state legislature can, case by case, give you a permit to deposit it. But the legislature can do that. So really why I'm here is, you know, there was one site, and if you saw on that map, the other stars on that map were alternative sites. That's the alternative sites we found later. How many more alternative sites is there in North Dakota? I believe anywhere east of that yellow line can be a potential site. So I would like to see other counties and everything to get it out to the public, let them know what's out there. And maybe look at checking into what your bylaws or what your zoning permits, what is involved and what isn't involved, and maybe take further steps to show that up a little bit so it's more secure. At our county commissioner meeting this morning, the citizens are going there to ask them to put a more permanent fix to the problem, which a guy has to be, address it slowly and cautiously and word it and get it right. But I mean, it should be stepped into and start looking at it. So what can we do to stop this? The big thing to do is start talking to your legislatures. They're the ones who can release this permit to let it come in. So I would suggest, you know, getting them on board and talking to them. Tonight we have a meeting with our district representatives in Rugby and a representative from Hogan's office. So I mean, it's something that the guy should probably look serious at doing, because it might not be this year, it might not be 5 years, but maybe 10 years, it's probably gonna come. If they bring nuclear waste in here, is anybody in this room gonna see any results of it? Probably not what they put in the ground, but they gotta get it here. How's it coming? It's coming by your rail, by your highways, and anything can happen. Any questions or any comments?
I and Kristen went over to that meeting. There was a few science questions to it, but it was pretty much, looked to me like they tried to slip it under the table, and I have a huge concern over somebody why don't they just drill 8-inch holes instead of conveniently the same size hole that they're gonna put something in. And I made a point that you can't tell me you're gonna pay $80 million for a hole and then cover it up without putting something in. So I kinda asked Todd called and wanted to come over and address us today, so I invited him over, and I think we need to look into this, because also there were other counties present that had no idea that this was gonna happen, and I think they were gonna try to slide it under their table too. So.
Who's they and we're talking
The Department of Energy is the main one behind all this. And they have granted the contract awards to Italian Memorial Institute, which is located out of Ohio. And they've got on board with them as the EERC, which is the Research Center in University of Grand Forks. And that's who they're doing.
University wants to drill a hole, correct?
Well, they're kind of on a contract to do that research part of it. There is an actual well drilling company who's contracted to do the boring part of it. The researcher will be on board to check the and check the, you know, some of the liabilities of it.
The Department of Energy seemed to be very adamant at that meeting that in their 5-year span of their testing, of their research, that absolutely zero nuclear waste would go in there, but they couldn't account for what would happen once their 5 years was done. And those were the questions that were thrown at them to answer, and they clammed up a lot at the end, and they got very defensive because they couldn't answer it, because I think they knew what the public already knew.
Yep. So when the 5 years
Aren't they gonna
sticker full of cement when they're done? Wouldn't that?
They
It
would,
was
they
stated
never,
in the
they
paper,
never said it.
Yeah.
They never said how they would cover it or plug it or close it.
They would seal the hole, they said.
With cement, correct?
Correct. But if they find this.
3 miles of cement?
Well, they'll fill it down and then they'll cap it with a cement and a ventilate mix.
Yeah. I'm no scientist, I'm no scientist, so I'm not sure what they're looking for. But
Right.
it's good to be concerned,
Bill?
you know.
With the Spirit Wood Aquifer going all the way from middle of Manitoba all the way down to Nebraska, under the eastern part of North Dakota, and that delivers water to millions of people.
Yes, it's a
I
big.
do not believe that it is in the best interest of North Dakota to have,
There's high potential to contaminate that water source.
we're the number one in how many different commodities, Bill? Flax, probably hard red spring wheat. We lead the nation in coal production. I think commodities, it's probably 11 out of the 13 we're in the top 10. And we just have too big of a valuable resource to jeopardize that with nuclear waste that could contaminate our soils in North Dakota. I think we should adamantly oppose it and get a resolution in place and ask them to seriously consider some other place, maybe out in the middle of the desert or somewhere where it isn't gonna.
What other
They did
states,
say
what other
that-
states are involved?
In this boring project?
Yeah.
Today, none that I know
They did say
of. That I know of.
in that meeting, Todd, didn't they, that New Mexico was interested in this project? They said it on a couple
New
times.
Mexico and
New-
Texas, correct?
I believe you're
Yes.
correct, that they are interested, and so they were kind of projecting almost, and Mark or Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but North Dakota, you better get on board because other people want this, so.
Are they
Okay.
trying to sell it to us, or were they
Trying to sneak it past?
sneak us under us?
It just seemed a little
Yeah.
questionable.
I believe our resources and whatever are too valuable to let it. And the other thing is, what would happen to our property and real estate values, whether it's your house in town, or if it's your commercial properties, or your agricultural properties? If we start getting nuclear waste deposited here, and you Google up nuclear waste deposit, and there's a star right over North Dakota, who's gonna come here?
How did you get access to this property if you own this home?
This property is located on state-owned land.
Okay.
And that's, all the sites on that map, and all the sites that they were looked at, were state-owned properties,
School lands, huh?
school lands.
It would definitely affect the quality of life we have.
Or you're involving the right people when you bring your legislators in.
Yeah, and that's a high priority, that the guy should be in contact with them and start talking to them.
Thanks.
This was just a very important thing to me. I mean, that's why I went over and attended his meeting, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna take Kristen along because she's our emergency manager, she should see anything coming, you know, but they did try to sneak it in. I mean, it looked, it looked to me point blank like they just tried to slide it under the rug. I mean, they knew in September, and nobody found out in the county, Pierce County, until February, March, late January, February, so I just wanted Todd to come over and show us what's happening. I know the other, I think it was 2 counties or 3 counties that had potential. They had no idea until the day before that meeting that they were even being considered, so.
After that meeting, we found out there was actually 3 potential sites within Pierce County.
Yeah.
1 in Cater County, and 1 in Stetson, and we also heard of 1 in Burley. So, and that's what we've heard of.
Do you live close to it, where the site was?
Real close, actually. I live in Rugby, but I farm, and the farm I grew up on and my parents still live at is 2.5 miles straight east of the site. Yeah, I can personal too. But one other thing, maybe you guys want to write this down, and some of you maybe have it, but there's a website that some of us have put together over there. And the name on it is www.ndanw.org. That's North Dakotans Against Nuclear Waste. And on this site, there is lots of articles that you can link onto it and read. There's a lot of these documents. This moratorium is on there, and there's lots of other different information on there. It's a really informational site, and it's growing as we find more information out, we keep adding to it, so. And there's some dates and timelines on there of what meetings are coming up and this and that going on, so. Encourage you to look at it a little bit if you want.
When are you meeting with your legislators? What day was it?
Tonight, we are meeting with them at 7 o'clock.
And that's Nelson and who else?
Nelson, Weiss, and then Klein.
Oh, you're on the right path there. So that's your chain of command to Bismarck, so
Right, that's our,
follow that.
we hold, so.
And on that note, I think it would be advisable for us to visit with our legislatures about this situation as well. You know, we're meeting with them soon on another matter. It might not be a bad idea to get some input from them. You know, I find it interesting that we're talking about $115 million here, and nobody's saying anything about the potential for this being economic development or anything of that nature. It's just, we're gonna put a hole in your ground and then we'll see ya. So
I believe the small amount we benefit off the money revenue out of the drilling is gonna cost a lot more at the end.
yeah.
Let's see what your legislators have to say. Let's see what they have to say. That's what I would, I mean,
Okay,
I mean,
all right,
Thank you.
sensationalize it any more than it's
thank you.
Thank you.
Drive safe. I don't know.
Next on our agenda, we have Tammy Hall. Okay. From she's the Valley Met representative. I have information here from Sanford Air Met, 2 different entities?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I have some passed out as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to introduce also Robert Miller, who is our chief flight nurse and head of medical operations for Valley Med Flight. And Alex, he is our base manager on Devil's Lake. My name is Tammy Evelbold, and I'm a business development specialist at Valley Med Flight. For those of you who don't know about us, we are a critical care air ambulance service, and we originated in Grand Forks in 2001, and were purchased by Air Medical Resources Group in 2013. So that purchase, we were able to expand into North Dakota even further. We have bases in Dickinson, Williston, that is like I would say, and Sydney, Montana. We're just moved into Rosa, Minnesota, and 3 bases also in Michigan. I'm here today to present a countywide membership with Valley Med Flight. And what that membership with our company gets you, if any member of your county needs to be flown by us, either by a rotor or a fixed wing, there is 0 out-of-pocket expense. Not only does it count, just cover while you're in Ramsey County, but we are in also 16 states within 16 other states. So if you were to fly down, for example, in Arizona, you're still covered underneath our membership. Right now we have 7 counties that are signed up in North Dakota here with these memberships, and 2 in Minnesota, and we just had just above in that base up there. With if you look through our, in our membership, it also will show the states on there, as well as the radiuses, and I included maps as well, showing the distances for the flights. But, with the purpose of countywide membership, what we did was, it'd be $3 per person here, so I came up with a number in the contract. We took your population of 12,066 by $3 to come up with the, amount on there of 37,800, which could be, we'd be willing to do installments for over the 6 months. I'm going to open it up for questions on your end and for this.
Which other counties are involved in, have already signed on for this?
Billings, Golden Valley, Dunn, Divide, McKenzie, Burke, and Hettinger.
How can you do that? I mean, is it that big of a volume of people and that small a number of people that need the service that it comes out all right with you for $3 a head? Because, boy, ambulance service is very, very expensive.
Basically, am I okay to answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. The bulk of our reimbursements anyway come from third-party payers. We're contracted with quite a few entities. Insurance reimbursements is kind of how we stay viable. We don't necessarily make money collecting from private patients. Valley MedFlight as a whole, and even before we were part of this larger air medical resource group, tried to operate on that same principle, collecting more from insurance carriers and Medicare, Medicaid, that kind of stuff, and leaving the patient with minimal balance. Since we've become part of our medical resource group, we now operate 10 bases from Sydney, Montana, all the way to Escanaba, Michigan. The average out-of-pocket for a patient is less than $500. The last time we ran the stats, it was actually around like $380. That's variable depending upon the insurance and that kind of stuff. Medicare, Medicaid usually is on that lower end of pretty much zero, and then goes all the way up to basically what your deductible or co-pays would be. So, for instance, myself, if I have a high deductible plan, it's early on in the year, I haven't used any of it. If I were to get in a car accident on the way back to Grand Forks and need to be flown, likely I would be responsible for that entire deductible. The benefit of the membership is it waives all deductibles and co-pays. So that's where, as an individual, the membership benefits you. We would still collect any reimbursements from the insurance, which is where we get over 90% of our reimbursements anyway. So it just kind of protects the citizens from any high out-of-pocket costs if they have a high deductible plan.
I have a concern that membership does not apply to Medicaid enrollees. Medicaid enrollees are probably the people who would need this absolutely the most.
Go ahead.
It's already being covered.
Basically, the reason for the membership is to kind of offset the Medicare and Medicaid enrollees in all the areas. Those patients, they're not covered under the membership because we already have our preset reimbursements and agreements with Medicaid that.
And Medicare?
Yes, and it really wouldn't, they wouldn't pay anyway. We don't take patients to collections, so we take any and all reimbursements from Medicare and Medicaid as full payment for a flight.
Would we be wise to determine how many people in our county are on Medicaid and subtract that from the number of enrollees?
We certainly could look into that, yeah.
We got a lot of people on medical assistance in this county.
Yeah, we can remember.
We can look at that. Is there are covered veterans, for instance, are they covered under this?
The county-wide membership covers any resident of the county.
So like veterans under the Veterans Administration Act, they're not excluded?
Correct.
Thank you.
Not to my knowledge, anyway. I should actually get a pen.
Probably should need to know that.
Yeah.
Can individuals buy this on their own?
They can.
Yes.
How much is that cost?
It's $50 and with insurance and $60 about.
$60 you could buy this
Uh,
stuff?
Yeah, it's
Without
50 with insurance, 80
Oh,
without.
sorry, 80, yeah.
Yeah.
$80 with and without insurance?
Correct. And it's a yearly annual.
I don't have it, it's really reasonable. You shouldn't even live without it, it's reasonable. I mean, we have a family policy, covers 3 of us.
Yeah,
We don't
and-
have to use it.
And that's
but it's like-
$50 a year.
And they're all.
Yeah, it covers Sawyer, Shane and I. It's like an ambulance,
Yep.
your ambulance service.
And
It's
whomever applies for the membership, it covers them, their spouse, and any dependents up to age 26.
And then prices were for family or
There's not an individual, there's not a distinction, it's just one set price per whoever buys it or purchases the membership, their spouse and any dependents.
That's the same policy that you're offering for like $3 a person.
Correct, on the county-wide
On the
level,
county.
yeah.
County,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's 3.
Larger number.
And can you tell us, let's say there was an accident and somebody had to come and pick somebody up off the highway, helicopter, and take them back. What does that typically cost? $10,000?
It's all dependent. Like I said, we get all of the bulk of our reimbursements through insurance. A lot of the insurances we're contracted with, Blue Cross, Blue Shield in North Dakota we're contracted with, Sanford Health Plan we're contracted with. So it's basically a percentage of what we bill that we get for reimbursement. And that's all pre-negotiated if we're contracted with the insurance company, so they're happy and we're happy and we're able to remain viable in the communities that we serve. I would say, generally speaking, I mean, I'm pretty sure all of us have probably seen the media prior to our Blue Cross Blue Shield contracts about air ambulance fees being exorbitantly high. I would say that they're somewhat accurate. I would say probably anywhere from the $25,000 to $50,000 range is what gets billed out. Again, like I said, the bulk of that is reimbursed by insurance companies. Medicare and Medicaid reimburse. We're contracted, that's not a percentage, that's federally regulated, so they give us pennies on the dollar. That's why we need to get a higher percentage from the third-party insurance companies to stay viable in the areas that we serve. And the membership is kind of a way to show the individuals that we're not out to bankrupt anybody. Like I said, we've never taken anyone to collections. We'd be happy to share what our out-of-pocket costs are for the Devil's Lake region itself, if you guys would be interested in something like that. We did put some numbers together. I think we did, in the last calendar year, 174 flights out of this region.
Yeah, I live on 7th Street.
Yeah.
You're busy.
So,
I'm sure it's highly variable as to what you need to do when you get there and who you have to take for a team and everything. So it's, I'm sure it's really difficult to say what it would cost.
yeah, the cost of readiness is what is extremely high. Our aircraft run anywhere from $2.5 to $3 million for the aircraft. Basically, when it's broken down, it costs us about $7,000 to $10,000 a day to be ready and active.
Looking in the last 10 years with air ambulance services, aircrafts are getting more expensive, but we're investing in the newer aircrafts, not old refurbished models. You know, all the safety technology that goes in with the aircrafts, so we're not crashing into towers. We've got night vision goggles, so whatever brings the most safety to our patients. We're investing that kind of money, the top of the line equipment, what we can bring to the patients in these rural regions to get them to a higher level of care fast. And then, you know, just the continuing training, the salaries, that's what goes into this. And the one nice thing, I've worked with other air medical companies, and what I really like about this company is what they say when they first hire you is we put our patients first. And that truly is with this company. You know, if what the media was saying a long time ago is that we try to, you know, we're criminals, we go after all this money, you know, our billings are high, I would have left this company a long time ago. But when Robert said our average out of pocket is around $300 for the patients, you know, that's truly is what it is. And they do truly put the patients first in this company, which is great. You know, I'm a resident of Devil's Lake here as well. I moved, when I got this position here, I moved here and became a community member. And so, you know, it affects me as a community member too, not only as an employee. And it's a great service that they would provide here. It truly is.
I wouldn't want to pay your insurance premium either.
Also with the hangar.
So great.
Any other counties you've been talking to?
We go up to Cavalier County later this morning.
And Ramsey is next.
No, you, this is Ramsey.
Or Ramsey, Walsh, sorry, Walsh.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Sorry.
A lot of what we are trying to do is, I mean, kind of surround and talk to the areas where we are anyway. We have no plans on going anywhere. We're in here for the long haul. We're going to be starting construction on a hangar behind the hospital this year, which will hopefully be completed, and which is another, you know, $3 million investment. So I mean, we're ingrained in the communities. We want to be here for the long haul, and we figure while we're here, you know, why not make the most out of it for everyone that's involved and increase.
Your company's out of Utah?
Our parent organization is out of Utah, Salt Lake City. Valley MedFlight was started by Ben Dorman, who was a local to kind of this region. He was actually born and raised in Clearbrook, Minnesota. I got to know him working in Grand Forks. We were both nurses in the ER. We were constantly seeing a lot of patients coming in from these small facilities that probably should have been flown, and the service just wasn't available. It wasn't feasible because it took too long for an aircraft to get out to these places. So with that, the idea of Valley MedFlight was born, and he started that with a couple of a medical doctor out of Grand Forks actually, and an aviation guy out of Grand Forks, and it kind of blossomed into what it is today.
So this show is 10 minutes out of Grand Forks, and is that correct? Your map here?
No, I think it's 30.
That's Dakota, 10 minutes to Devil's Lake. Right?
Oh, no. Okay.
An average flight from Mercy
35.
Hospital to
35
Ultra
Grand
Hospital is, and that's not taking any wind into factor. If we have a strong tailwind, for instance, on the Sunday night, we flew from Mercy Hospital to Ultra, and it took us 18 minutes, pad to pad, because we had winds out of the west pushing us. We've had patients, we've flown from pad to pad from Mercy Hospital here in Devil's Lake to Sanford's helipad in Fargo. We've been there in 18 minutes with strong winds out of the northwest. So it all, you know, wind plays a big factor, but that's just kind of an average response zone map for you.
And as far as the need for air ambulance services, just as a couple of examples, obviously heart attacks, strokes, trauma, it's becoming increasingly evident that the time that a patient spends out of the facility increases mortality. And just as an example, I mean, we've gotten a patient from Devil's Lake to Grand Forks in under 60 minutes from the time they arrived at the hospital to open up their arteries in their heart, and which it's a national standard that happens in less than 90 minutes, and we're able to do it in less than an hour.
Do you have any idea how many people are privately covered in Ramsey County at this time?
No, I can get you those numbers though.
Okay. I mean, ideally, I'd like to see
Yeah.
12,000 people pay $50 out of pocket, but I'm pretty sure that's not gonna happen, so maybe this is something that we should consider as a benefit for our community.
Yeah, we can get you those numbers and
Okay, thank you.
I did talk to Lonnie. Those counties that do have them are primarily in the western part of the state, and I've had many conversations with Tammy about it, on what dollar source to utilize, because we're not allowed to use tax dollars for this membership. I had spoke with Lonnie, and he looked it up in the Century Code and whatnot, and all the counties that do currently have the membership, they use oil money, and they're free to do with that as they wish, all of that revenue. So I had called Lonnie yesterday, I didn't get a hold of him, but I was going to ask him about the rent, and when we rent out the room, the armory for wedding receptions, seeing if some of those dollars would be able to be utilized for this if you're interested. So I'm trying to get a hold of him and work on that front to be able to find the way to pay for it if you as a board decide this is something that you'd like to continue to pursue.
Really appreciate you guys coming in here and sharing this information with us, because it's, I
Really
think
gives
it's
us
gonna,
something to think about.
it's gonna be used more and more and more in the future now, so you guys do such a good job that everybody wants to go that way.
well, we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very
Sorry,
much.
please.
Thank you very much. Roger's with us this morning. I think he's got some good news he wants to share with us.
Yep, I was able to talk to a couple of you before the meeting. This elevator called me on Friday and wanted to know if we wanted our rates cut in half for our service agreement. And I said, that sounds like a wonderful idea.
At what cost?
Same.
I mean, come every other month instead of a month, or what, change in contract?
We pay it once a year or something?
Once a year. Annually.
And I said with their upgrade that we've done to the elevator, and they basically said that they were going over old records and because just of the longevity and of our contract with them, they're reducing the rate from $1,030 a month to $500.
And the contract is exactly the
The
same.
contract is the same, the service is the same. So I really don't see a reason why we wouldn't go with that. And Ernie, you've got the, they want us to fax back the copy. Actually, I think all of you have it, but place where you will sign and we'll fax it back and then it'll be a done deal. So make a motion to accept that.
No motion and a second to accept a reduction in contract services, contract price for Lotus Elevator. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. I'll sign that for you. Anything else you want to share with us today?
No, I don't have any other money saving ideas right now.
Okay.
You did good today.
This is all right, right?
All right.
Beth?
Good morning. We're just busy assessing, so there's not a lot to talk about. We are preparing maps that we're going to mail out to the chairman of each township board in time for their annual meeting. And it's just a small map that shows where we are with the farm residents and a list of the people that it affects. And a letter that just asks them to look for any errors or if they have any information that looks incorrect on here or that they can give us before we start this project this spring. And so that's kind of been, Christy's been working on that with Steve, so that should work out well. And we also did have another assessor who has started taking classes. I think he's taken the first 5, and that's Daryl Jamza of Starkweather. So that's good. We've had some data gatherers that have brought in information to us, so that's working well also. So everything seems to be actually moving pretty smoothly. There are a few townships that we haven't really heard a lot from, but I think in the end, it'll all work out. They're not really huge. Right now, they don't have a lot of residences and that kind of thing, so no matter what happens, we'll be able to work with them and take care of it. We just recently went to our winter workshop, which is where we get our continuing education. It was on the sales ratio, and that went well. And then the office also did attend the mandatory ethics, working with coworkers training, which was really good. I was really thankful to have that provided, even a refresher and learning some new information. I thought it worked really well. It was a good class for a quick hour. And other than that, just working.
Does anybody know when the township annual meeting is? I know that their individual ones are on the 15th, right?
It's the 22nd.
The 22nd.
At 7. Yeah, I did confirm that.
Okay, so 3/22 at 7 p.m.
The state township officers meeting was recently, also it was last week. I did attend that and
Okay.
got some new information. So they were.
Okay. Thanks, Beth.
All right, thank you.
Stacy.
Good morning.
Morning.
I got a report made this morning, so it's fresh. And February again, we're still visiting at 59 veterans in, and one referral to, there is an agency that's doing free tax work for veterans. And so we got that covered. Some of the things that have been going on, some of the veterans are finally, we're getting, the claims that we had filed last fall are finally coming through, so some of the veterans are a few more bucks in their pockets to spend around home now. The VA has been slow to catch up, but they are getting a little better. And for Adam, I'm going to bring it up before you do.
I won't ask.
The Choice Act, the last 2 weeks of February, congressmen and senators and the VA were just inundated with thousands of complaints. Last Thursday, I was down to Senator Holman's office in Fargo and visited with Monica Lindholm, aide there. And while I walked in the door, she had numerous pieces of paper all over her desk, all complaints on Choice Act. She was on the phone with a complaint about the Choice Act. I talked with her about half an hour, and the state of Alaska has opted out of the Choice Act. The state of Montana is in the process of opting out, and Senator Hogan is making, had meetings, and looks like North Dakota is going to opt out of the Choice Act. When that happens, the responsibility falls on the VA to make appointments for outside the VA care. And Hogan's people, they talked to the VA and asked if they could handle it, and they said, well, they did it before this thing came about. The person that's in charge of doing that area has 12 people underneath her, and they handled the whole state of North Dakota, and there was no trouble. So hopefully it goes back to that, and we don't have to deal with these. They added more call centers, and now there's call centers in Texas, but this still doesn't mean that you're going to get the good service that you should expect for medical care. So there's a little bright spot on the horizon for veterans with the Choice Act situation. We have our Veterans Conference, our spring conference, 21st, 22nd, 23rd in Bismarck. I'm sure that this Choice Act issue will be brought up, and hopefully we'll get some little more information on the possible cancellation or North Dakota opting out of the Choice Act. So that's as much as I can give you at the moment. Oh, by the way, it's Hawaii Day in Nelson County. So if you should see my hat.
I thought you were flying to Hawaii.
You guys are gonna have to stop. You give me vacation time and I'll.
Is there a veterans conference in Hawaii or something?
That never happened. Never
I'm
happened.
gonna find an emergency management conference in Hawaii then.
There was one about 10 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure that's where you're going, guys.
But if anybody's interested, you have to dress and bring something Hawaiian to the community room in Lakota if you're interested.
What time are you holding?
Noon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the pizza covered, so.
Hawaiian pizza.
The last time we had it, one of the social service people made poi. Yeah.
Man alone should tell you.
Poi.
Boy.
So, that's all I got.
Okay.
Look it up.
Thanks, Stacy.
Yep, we'll see you guys. Thank you.
Enjoy your dinner.
I will. Hawaiian pizza, you can't go wrong.
I'll probably be there.
I won't be there. Morning, short and sweet. I wasn't here for the last meeting, but thank you for the use of the buildings for Roundup. Biggest crowd we ever had, again. Every year we've been saying that lately. Been getting a lot of pressure to consider moving to the college. As long as I'm here, that probably won't happen, as long as we get the blessing of the commission to keep using the building and everybody's parking space, we'll stay here. We got a lot of things coming up again. The biggest thing probably for the community is our private pesticide training and our archery program is probably the two very biggest things. And I am looking for some help. We have 96 kids this year enrolled in archery, and we are running out of room. We have it right now managed that the basement in the memorial building is full. I bought another net so we can use the whole basement. I'm not asking for space, but if you got some wild ideas that we could find to expand somewhere, we are open for suggestions. Not looking for money, just some help of what we can do. Unfortunately, we gotta turn some kids down because we just don't have room. That's a,
Turn kids down?
yeah. Yep, it's really a bad thing. It's really bad, but we just don't have any more facility to have it, to be during the time frame that we can have it. That we got a waiting list for that and a waiting list for air rifle too. But we'll get by. But it's unfortunate that that has to happen, and again, like I said, we just expanded with another net that'll add probably another 7 or 8 shooters per time slot in the basement down there. I say this tongue in cheek because it's not good that we have to turn down kids, but it's really good to see our program that much interest in growing like it is. But that's the way it is. So if you got some wild ideas for space, we're open to suggestions. Okay? Economic conditions of farmers this year, I'm a little concerned about it. There's gonna be some issues. I've talked to lenders, there's issues out there already with some possible financing going on that some producers won't get. How they proceed forward, not sure. I did talk to a friend in West Fargo, and he said that he talked to Steph here about a month ago, and he starts farm auctions the last week of April, and he goes all the way through to the end of May. And a little further beyond of just farm auctions. So, not to be pessimist on the downside, but
Realistic.
that's what's, you know,
You go on their set and look at their schedule now, and he doesn't have a day off from now
Yeah.
until
you know,
there's an auction every day.
as much as we,
There isn't too many of us around, and remember, that's when they had 6 or 7 every day, you didn't have to drive very far.
yeah.
That wasn't
As much as we say that we got a lot of things to pay for a lot of our community things, still, agriculture is still the #1 force behind everything we do locally and throughout the state. So, yeah, it's a tough deal.
Where did the majority of the tax money that was lost in North Dakota in the since the legislative session ended?
Yeah.
70% come off tax, sales tax loss. That's not coming all from oil.
Yep. Sorry, didn't mean to end on such a pessimist note.
Realistic, be realistic.
I have one more thing, performance reviews for our office is Wednesday, and Commissioner Olson's graciously accepted the offer to come and sit in on. That's one time of the year that it's kind of fun to get done. Thank you.
Thanks.
Kristen.
Good morning. Well, half of my agenda, my own agenda for you guys was already on the main agenda. So, Pierce County, we heard about that. Valley Mid-Flight, we heard about that. I'm going to continue working with Tammy Everbold, talking with Lonnie, just to see if we can make something work. And then once you as a board decide if that's something that you'd like to pursue, then we'll move forward on that as well. Just been busy trying to wrap up Ramsey County's multi-hazard mitigation plan. The contractor is finishing up the last section on that. There will be one more public meeting, and then I'm going to push out our plan on our county's website for public distribution to see if there's any comments that need to be made. And that'll be out for 30 days. And then I'll push that to the state, and then it'll go to the FEMA level to be approved, and then I'm done for 5 more years on that. Another thing, the siren equipment was delivered to Lawton. I had obtained funds through a grant, a state grant, for a new siren, so that was delivered. And this spring, probably sometime, weather depending, is when it will be put up. The crew will come in from Wisconsin, Minnesota, and put it up, just like they did last year when they put the 2 new ones up in the city of Devils Lake. I just completed my last training I needed in Bismarck last week for my level 2 certification for our EMA Association, Emergency Management. So I'll be working on full certification next. I don't think there's anything else. There's some local trainings, local meetings with our first responders, quarterly meetings coming up this week. Typical day-to-day operations. Nothing else I can think of that's too pressing. Unless anyone has anything for me. Boy, I hope you feel better, Louise.
Me too.
If not, thank you. Thanks. Have a good day.
You as well.
Thank you.
I got some things.
Kevin?
Okay, first of all, weight limits will be coming into effect pretty quick. Just like to see a motion to put ours into effect at the same time as the state highway.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, the motion carries.
Okay, and then blading rates for next year, we need to talk about setting those. I have a chart of what our annual costs were last year. Just got completed, so. This is just something we charge every year. It's just an idea of what it's actually costing us. Don't necessarily follow it, but I guess my suggestion for the rates this year would be to leave the hourly rates the same, since fuel costs are considerably down this year and our wages, because of attrition, retirements, whatever, are down this year, so. I think the hourly rates we could keep the same, but we may want to look at adjusting the per mile rates on the contracts. And I guess on my agenda I said $250 per mile, but we could go $245 also, if that's more in line.
And we set that stage at the annual township officers meeting in the past few years, letting them know that we're going to try to get a little bit closer to cost as the years go by. So that shouldn't be anything that's be a surprise to them.
Right, they were in favor of that. Yeah.
Of that,
Favor of
going up a little bit every year to get a little bit closer to the actual cost.
Rather than
Instead of
that.
jumping them.
Yes.
Every 5 years
Keep it
go
the
up.
same and jumping maybe $40 every foot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're charging, last year we charged $240 and it was costing us $513.
Right.
So I think the 240.
So you said you want to go to 250?
You want to go to 250?
Yep, that's
I
my
think the
suggestion.
250
And
is probably.
The cost would probably be around that 513, maybe a little less because of the
Right.
fuel.
Exactly.
So let's go 50%.
Closing the gap a little bit again.
Yeah. I'll entertain a motion
I'll make that motion
to accept the two.
Yeah.
raise the rate to $2.50 and keep the,
Per mile.
hourly rates the
Hourly
same.
rate, same, yeah.
How many pavements are we getting?
Guaranteed 6, but we don't stop at 6, we just, I mean, they get at least 6. That's the way the contract reads.
They pay for 6 and we still go out there and try to
Yep.
maintain the roads.
As often as possible.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any other discussion? No? I like the idea of 250 because it's hard for me to believe these fuel rates are gonna stay this low. I believe that we inching their way back up, and that gives us a little bit of a cushion anyway. I mean, we don't have a cushion since we're obviously doing it for less than half of our actual cost, but. You want a roll call on it?
Olson?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Mertens?
Aye.
Lightfoot?
Aye.
Heisler?
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, then we'll be mailing those contracts out shortly here, so they'll have them for their township meetings coming up. The next item is our 2-year agreement with KLJ, and Paul talked about that a little bit at the last meeting, and now we have the actual agreement, so. I reviewed it, it looks fine to me, there's really no dollar amount we're committing to or anything, it's just saying that we wanna use them for small projects as they come up, rather than advertise every time. So we'll need a motion to sign that.
It's actually 5 years,
Yeah.
and it provides the basis for all of our contracts. We can do a task order underneath them, but he's right, this doesn't commit you to any work without another task order.
We're just extending the same terms from 2016 to 2021.
Yep.
5 years?
Yep, it's not exclusive though, it doesn't preclude you from hiring anyone else for any work you put on RFP for or any of that.
Why would you want such a long contract?
I guess we didn't really have any changes to it, and the last time it was 5 years too, so, yeah. I've got copies of that here from the group.
I would you,
Okay.
I would you lie right in front of everybody?
Motion to approve the.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
And then I have a couple other items. I sent a letter to the city of Edmore asking if there was any building permits or utility permits or anything like that I was gonna be needing. And in the letter, I said that we may be interested in buying the lots to the north. So just so you're aware of that I am pursuing. They're probably just gonna give them to us, but I don't know how that's gonna shake out. So I'll keep you up to speed on what happens there, but just so you know that I did ask the city if they were willing to sell them or donate them or whatever. No action right now, but
Well, just a question, was there a house on the property that the county purchased in Edmore?
Yep.
There was?
And you
I
burned
didn't
that,
understand that, I guess.
you burned that, right?
yep,
It was an abandoned building.
yeah, I guess I had it up on the parcel deal, right? Yeah,
That's where the water and sewer lines are from, right?
yep, there's a water line there, but there is no, it had a,
Oh, it has septic system.
Yeah.
Are they gonna let you use that, or are they gonna make you build a new one?
we have to put a new one in.
New water line or?
New septic, we can use the old water line.
They have city sewer, don't they?
Yep.
We want to be in that.
Yeah, well, we will hook to the old city sewer line. Yep. Or a city water line.
Not the sewer?
No, the sewer is like almost 2 blocks away, and it would have been,
What you're gonna use, you won't need a big field anyway.
no, right.
It's not like you're gonna shower up there.
No.
No.
I think if we were able to get these other lots, we'll be able to put our own mound system, whatever you call it, in.
is city sewer.
Yeah, but it's 2 blocks. It's cost prohibitive to put it in. Plus, I talked to Sanderson, and he said the route we would have to take is full of utilities, and it's almost 2 blocks away. He said you'd be way up farther ahead. No more than you'd be using the sewer to put your own system in. That was his suggestion. So I guess that's what I was gonna pursue.
Any other
This is
questions?
not a very good example, I guess that's what I'm concerned about. You know, a lot of people that use public sewers and we don't want to move off on our system, we're trying to get away from. When it's available, I don't know.
Could you possibly check into the actual cost of doing it?
Yeah.
I can look into a price.
Okay.
I'd like to see price at least just for comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, I just.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
If
No, I
it's
think
there, if we
that's-
can, I mean,
You might be able to bore to it, you know, and if there's easements on some lot lines or something like that, you could use those existing lot lines and bore to it. That's getting a little bit more common all the time.
Right.
never hurts to look into.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I'll get an
city,
estimate of what it would cost both ways, and we can see what the difference would be.
I'm sure the city glad to get rid of these lots from all the problems we're having around North Dakota with
Yeah.
vacant lots and buildings, people jumping in.
And it's just solid trees, I mean, it's
Yeah, there's nothing.
kind of useless, but
Cattails and trees.
not really useless, I shouldn't use that term, but it's,
Undeveloped.
yeah.
Underused.
It's sitting.
Okay. So if you'll pursue that for us, give us some cost comparisons at the next meeting, I'd appreciate that, Kevin.
Okay. And then also Nels with rural utilities, rural utilities, gave me a proposal for when they want to put in a small water line or a sewer line underneath our right-of-ways. Our permit reads that it has to be cased, encased, they have to case them. Well, he's always had heartburn with that on the smaller lines. And the state is allowing him to put smaller water lines underneath their right-of-ways without casing them. So he's got a proposal that we do the same thing. I don't know if you want me to read this or.
How often do they use it? Do they, use that option?
Not real often. And he told me last time I talked to him, he told me they're pretty much done expanding. There's no more room for expansion, so there's not gonna be a lot in the future either, but.
The water lines?
Right. Yeah.
Not money for those kind of projects.
It says, GRWD, Greater Ramsey Water, is requesting Ramsey County Highway Department allow small diameter waste service lines and small diameter sewer service lines to be installed under county roads under the following conditions. Number one, the water line and sewer force main crossings up to 2 inches may be installed without a casing pipe. The pipe shall be, and then he gives a type of pipe, which probably doesn't mean much, SRD 11 class 200, poly pipe installed by a continuous bore method. This method has been allowed under state highway for several years due to the advancement in pipe quality and performance, which is true. And number 2 says the sewer service lines shall be 4 inches and may be installed without a casing pipe. The pipe shall be, again, it's SRD 35, sewer pipe installed by a continuous bore method. And then number 3 is Greater Ramsey Water will apply for a permit under the current main line application for all future large diameter pipe crossings. Greater Ramsey Water will notify the Ramsey County Highway Department of any service line installation prior to construction. So basically, he's looking for a waiver to our
permit that he can use for every instance that would, you know, fall under these guidelines.
Sewer line at 2 inches?
4
4
inches.
inches.
4 inches.
What's the advantage of the casing, I guess? Why did they case them in the past?
The water lines especially, if there was a break underneath our right of way, it makes a horrible mess.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah.
It's basically encapsulated, moves the water off the
Oh,
road, so it
yeah.
doesn't, kind of what I figured.
I can't see where the sewer line would make a
No,
pretty
unless,
significant mess as well.
yep, especially if it was a force main, which
Forced.
in some of these cases, he's talking, you know, a pump is pumping this stuff, so there's pressure there.
Yeah.
But it probably isn't a continuous pumping cycle, it's probably for a couple minutes and then a break.
Right.
But yeah, I suppose the encasement probably even gives it a little bit of protection against frost too, because, you know,
Can't shift
that's always air around something always is a good deterrent for frost to get through.
Right.
As well as the protection.
And then.
Is it cost prohibitive to
Yeah,
encase?
that's his reasoning.
So
Where does the money come from to pay for that? The state?
Sometimes it is that grant program, but more than likely it's the homeowner themselves, because they'll own the line that, until it gets to the main line.
So did he put anything as far as the depth goes there, at a depth of 6 feet or below, you know, so we know that he's dealing with stuff below frost?
No, there's no depth, he's just worried about the casing, the casing pipe for now. I mean, he realizes that the depths have to be.
It's just that's a given, or that's
Right.
assumed?
I don't know, yeah, I guess we don't need a decision on it today, but it's something to.
Why don't you give us a chance to think about it, and we'll bring it up again at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's probably.
Maybe Nels wants to come in there.
And maybe else wants to.
How many places, Kevin, would you guess that one on the county roads is rough?
Well, the big issue he's having right now is out there by, on Ramsey County 1 on the north side of the highway there, they're selling all those lots, and the sewer and the water are both on the other side of the road. And in order for them to put the sewer and water on the other, you know, just one big main line, but it's when it gets down to the main line down there, it's force main there, so, you know, it's gonna be forcing sewage. It's gonna work backwards on it. Or on the other side of the highway, on the south side of 1, it's all gravity, so they can just dump right into it.
You can't put a septic system out there, is that correct?
I don't know if the lots are big enough or not. You have to have an acre now
You
with
gotta have
the
an
new
acre.
health department, so I don't think so.
But those lots were subdivided before, so they probably still fall under the old rule.
But I don't think the health department's gonna give any permits for under the acre.
Any new sewer systems that the health department does have, they're just gonna have to have that 1 acre, that square footage. And if they decide to put it in today, they'll have to have the larger acreage.
I think one way we could do it would be to, you know, refer it back to the county on a case-by-case basis, you know.
I think that's probably the best, do leave our permit the way it reads, and, cause something else might come up, well, you're letting the rural utilities do it.
Yeah, we sure learned that, didn't we?
You know, I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box.
Is our permitting process part of our comprehensive plan? I mean, is that?
It's under the health
It's
department.
under the health department, it's not a case of the plan, I was just kind of curious.
But our policy for going underneath roads
Is encasing them, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, electricity doesn't matter, wherever it is, these,
Yeah, is it a case?
yeah.
Yeah, that
So-
might be a good,
Let's bring it up again at the next meeting.
Sounds good. What else? I had a couple other things. Oh, I had in my budget for a new vehicle for myself, but I'm trying to decide whether I should buy a new one or go to the auction and get one there. Just looking for your guys' input, what do you think would be best?
looked into anything yet, I just,
You've had pretty good luck with the auction, and you have the ability to maintain a vehicle, so, but if you put it in your budget for a new vehicle, it's working out really good for the sheriff's department, so I really don't have a whole lot of comment on it other than what you want to do.
What did you budget?
I have 200,000, but there's other items in there also.
Oh yeah, it's just
How many miles you got on yours now?
150,000.
And if you bought a new one, 150,000, but last how many years?
I'd be retired probably.
But I mean, would you put on 20,000 a year?
Ain't that even, maybe 15, 16.
And they're coming out with some pretty good bids on, state bids on these things.
I never hurts to look both ways.
Yeah.
Okay. I will look on the internet what the state bids are then and come back to you with that. That's all I have. It was brought to my attention while you were up here doing Howard County on that, what was it up here where that pickup ran off the road? Two counter county commissioners brought it to my attention that Ramsey, that fault, the sign was supposed to be on. I couldn't drive to this at all, that's what, I'm repeating what they said.
Yeah, we do have an agreement with County that says that they will maintain that, and for whatever reason, it never got signed. It was back in, I don't know, 2011 or.
They said the same thing.
And it never got signed, but Larry and I, whoever is Larry, have been following that agreement, even though it wasn't signed. So, that agreement says that they're responsible for maintenance on that stretch of road, as far as signs, all that kind of maintenance. If there's an improvement, like if we gravel it, then we share costs.
Like I said, I couldn't drive to it, I don't know what it is.
We probably should dig up that because that guy calls me occasionally yet, and he really isn't gonna let go now because he said it's been long enough, but he hasn't got any answers, so it's not gonna work.
The person that ran off the road?
Yeah, he's got it's just an old pickup, but he said it was my pickup that I used for work and everything, and he said that there should have been a sign there. He said, I went off the road and destroyed my vehicle.
Yeah.
And if it needs to be turned in for a $5,000 or $6,000 vehicle or something like that, somebody better just get on with it before he comes up with anything else.
Well, I've been letting Larry deal with it, I mean, and I've talked to him on the phone many times about it, so he's aware of what's going on. I think they went up there and put the sign up,
Yeah.
once they knew it was down. They didn't know it was down before the accident, so.
Yeah.
And their sheriff handled the accident, so.
Like I said, I was approached by 2 county commissioners at another meeting, so.
The agreement's there, and I faxed, emailed Larry a copy of it here just in the last 2 weeks, but it was never got signed.
Just so you're aware of it.
It doesn't matter if it's us or them, it should just get taken care of because the guy's helping them going on.
But to be honest, I'm letting Larry
Yeah.
deal with that unless he needs my help with something.
Okay.
Okay. New business? Or you wanna do the FEMA site at Eagle Bend under old business first? That's old business, let's talk about that first. Was out yesterday, I took pictures of it. I'm sure you guys have seen it. I have pictures that can go up here if Kevin can get them up for us.
You got it down there.
I've come to the conclusion that this is a personal disagreement between neighbors with a FEMA lot in the middle, and I think each one of them wants their share of the pie, and I've come to the conclusion that by doing nothing, we let one of the owners take over the lot. He has since moved his no trespassing signs off the lot. He's moved his dock off the lot. Yeah, that's a tree in there. It's about maybe this high. I had a vision that we were gonna have to hire a tree mover.
Tree?
That's a tree.
This is a tree.
That is a tree. This is a tree that our visitor was complaining about.
Oh, there's the plastic. This
Yeah.
is a post.
Yeah, that's the
Marking
post.
the tree.
Yeah.
So all them are little white dots of trees, huh?
No, just that little brown thing right there. That's
What's
it.
that little path then? This? Yeah.
That's a
Post.
plastic post that marked the tree.
So they don't run over the mower. And these are all planted by, you don't know who, I
These were all planted by Mr. Willard.
That's my assumption.
And it was, well, Mr.
Yeah,
Heisler
I
didn't
have a
plant
question
them, so.
for you, Kevin. Willard came and talked to me, he told me that you gave him permission to plant those trees.
No, I
And that,
Okay.
In my mind, I just don't mind it it's there.
No, I mean, a tree
I
is
did not
a
give
wonderful
permission
thing,
to
it's a
it.
big deal. You know?
And it's not bothering anybody. But
It's not the tree, it's the
it's
act of
the act of
It's
doing
all the
it.
rest of it.
And, you know, I also wanted on record that, there was no attempt at subterfuge that day in not, taping that meeting. I'm very sorry that Mr. Moe wasn't here to put the camera on. I'm sorry that,
it's getting taped right now, right?
yes, I'm sorry
Well, that's
that,
good.
I'm sorry that
We're on the right
Betty
page.
had a family emergency and had to leave for. However, there was
That's
no
fine. You don't
attempt
have
at
to apologize
subterfuge.
for that.
And the minutes of the meeting are readily available, at which time we made a motion to do nothing. I would now entertain a motion that to prevent further involvement of the county commission in this matter, that the area be absolutely no trespassing. When we give you the right to drive your vehicle on a spot from me to Bill, and you decide to plant trees, put up no trespassing signs, and leave your dock on there, you've exceeded your ability.
permissive.
You want to pull up the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a break here, I'm terrible at running this one. Those are IT person.
You want me to get Steve?
You can get Steve.
I guess Steve, yeah, 'cause I want to pull up the parcel viewer as well. Pull up a lot of view.
I spoke at length with Gary Martinson about this, who issued the permit to build.
What's this on, garage or no?
Yeah, that's the
probably
garage.
yeah.
That's on his property?
The garage, this is his property out to the apron. The area that he requested was right here to drive in. Well,
You're standing on the backside of the lot right now.
yeah, I'm looking at
Looking at the
the
road.
lake, yeah, and the road,
Looking south.
yeah, absolutely.
Help me out.
You see the lake if you look north too, so.
Who owned this lot when the county bought it out? Who owned it?
He did.
Dan Willard.
Willard got it. He got the money?
He
He got the
it
money.
paid off.
For-
And signed
First
an
visit-
easement that he wouldn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
He took the payment and for the buyout.
First, the
he
city
signed.
paid for all of his utilities while he lived there.
We have that
They were
easement,
doing
right,
that.
Kevin?
And that property belongs to Ramsey County. And with the rules from FEMA, no one private can use it.
It's a, how did we keep the garage? Is that on?
That's on
That's
another
on
lot.
our
He didn't sell that
He
lot.
didn't live there.
Yeah, it's on his lot.
Yes. He owned two lots next to each other where the house was on one, the garage, I'm guessing it was a secondary garage, you know, or
On the
bolt
other.
or whatever was on the other one. The problem is the garage, the two main garage doors daylight out to the lot that,
And that isn't even, he also has a garage door from the road.
yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, we should just,
You make a motion, you want me to make it? I'll make the motion that we close up the lot to any access to anybody. Follow the wording of the FEMA regulations.
I'll second that.
Anything else that you put in here?
I'm wondering if we shouldn't have the lot lines redefined because one guy accuses one of pulling up the stakes, the other guy accuses the other guy of pulling up the stakes.
Okay.
Do we need to figure out where
We
the
do that,
lot
yeah.
line is?
Can we do that, Kevin?
Holdenbeck has done that many, many times.
Well, he probably has.
Yes, it's all done. I'm
We have
sure
some-
that with the amount of time that
Put
these
in-
two
put in-
gentlemen have put into
What are the
this,
markers, stone
it's
markers?
Well, that's the
fantastic.
thing, Dave has put in markers many times and they just get,
You know what? Cement them in and put a fence up. Done.
Well,
I can't put a fence up.
Well, you can-
FEMA guidelines.
they know where the lines are now.
Well,
That's what I'm saying, if
Let's be
we
done.
mark it, maybe we have to send a sheriff out occasionally just to make sure that there's not a boat or a trailer or a lawnmower or anything else on that piece of property. That's the next question, are we gonna allow them to mow it? Or are we just gonna tell them to
No.
stay off of it, period,
Nothing.
both sides?
County.
The way volume and sound under the FEMA,
it
Well, I
doesn't-
understand that the FEMA Act says leave it alone, but I know they're mowing.
Well, but for fire, you know, it shouldn't go into dormancy this fall because something will start on fire and the garage will burn down.
How should we handle it, Kevin?
that's a good question.
How should we handle it?
I would, you know, honestly, if he wanted to mow it, I would let him mow it, but,
who's he?
either one, if,
Well, right, so I don't wanna get into that. I don't wanna have
No.
one say that you scalped the grass, because that'll be the next thing.
If you let them mow it. then
I
you
wouldn't
them
let him
on.
do a thing.
Yeah, that's the
Either
problem.
either they're on or they're off.
I can tell you that all the other lots that Sandy has bought out like this, none of them get mowed, none of them. They're supposed to leave them as,
Natural.
yeah, like,
Go back to,
nature or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what the term is, but they're supposed to be for
But-
the rabbits to run through and stuff.
but that garage is less than from here to that wall over there, away from that lot line.
Yes, it is.
And if you
It's
have-
the width of
if you
your
have
desk
past
away
that
from the
tall,
lot line.
that garage will burn down.
Well, that's,
You need to protect that garage from fire. So I don't care if you wait until it just starts turning brown and then go out and mow it down, or what you do, we're gonna have to do it.
I don't know.
once a year, works for me.
You can't let that go brown and dormant then, because there'll be a fire.
And one of them will set it.
Say that.
I was thinking that.
So does the
Well, how
motion
should
need
we
to
handle this, Kevin?
include
What do you wanna do?
maintained
Oh,
as
FEMA, what does
needed
FEMA
by
want us
FEMA?
to do? That's the
Nothing.
question.
FEMA would, honestly, they wanna see them grow up to wild, so the animals can use it again.
Yes.
Says right in there that it should go back to,
Yeah. Original state or reconstruction state.
Did we explore any way of unhooking from this?
yeah, we can give it to, a park district or some public
That's good, public or nonprofit,
agency
correct?
that can
Yeah.
use
Has
it.
to be a
That's it. That's
nonprofit.
pretty much it.
That's
Put
it.
out here.
Same, yep, exactly the same, yep.
When the buyout occurs, the person receiving the buyout signs the agreement, then the county signs the agreement as well, correct?
Yep.
Well, I mean, to me, I guess, from a legal standpoint, our hands are tied.
Yeah.
We signed the agreement that said, this is how we're going to leave the lot.
Yeah.
No questions asked. I mean, unless we want FEMA to, I mean, I don't think FEMA would come and sue us, but,
No.
I mean, it is what it is. We signed the agreement, that's how it's gonna happen, and that's how it has to be.
Well, we might as well let it out, we're on tape, but if we need to get out of it somehow, just say, okay, go talk to FEMA, see what you can do. I mean, somebody comes in here and wants to
Well, our hands
do
are-
whatever with it, just go talk to FEMA, we're out of it.
I'm of the belief our hands are pretty much tied, because we signed the agreement, and they signed the agreement, and
We have
it's kind of
enough,
above our heads at this point, to be completely honest.
we have enough of these properties, it might behoove us to try to find an agency that
Well,
wants to
Yeah, we've talked about that in the
do
past.
something with them, put up a little shelter or something like that,
That's what I,
but they can't be
Well, we tried,
imposed.
but we
other
tried,
meetings I suggested NRCS and everybody snarked at me, so.
well,
I think that's the way out there, you'll have one government agency handle the other one. I mean, we're a government agency also,
well, we went,
our identity and.
the people out on East Bay wanted, their landowners corporation wanted to have it, and they couldn't have it because they would prevent the public from coming on it. So,
Yeah,
I,
they didn't want the public on it.
and they didn't want the public on it. Well, I don't believe these people want the public on it either. They want only themselves on it, and I believe that we just have to close it and
For now, we have The
motion on the
to-
floor to,
To make it inaccessible to anybody, so,
Yep.
right?
So if you want just to state that to follow the FEMA regulations?
in accordance with FEMA regulations.
Yeah.
There's a motion
And
and a
so-
second on the floor.
And so we'll have to send them both a letter.
Probably a
Post it in the
certified
paper.
letter.
Probably
We
certified.
don't have to send anybody any letters. That's public record to everybody. We're posting in the paper that lot sold out.
That every FEMA lot is,
We're following FEMA regulations.
that we're following FEMA regulations. Is that part of your motion?
What's that do?
Well, I said that we're following FEMA regulations.
Posted in the paper?
Initially, right? Just stay with that. I'll put it in there, put a notice in the paper. Ask Lonnie. How
Yeah,
many times you have to put it in?
I would ask Lonnie first before we do that, but we can kind of go from there, how Lonnie thinks legally we should handle it to tell people what we need to.
Just a heads up that these lots are all over, they're in Church's Ferry, they're in Penn, they're in Prairie, they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Prairie's got some too?
Prairie.
Yeah, Prairie has actually a couple.
Pens full of them.
No, and the problem is they're all over the place, so we can't keep our eyes on every last one of them.
No.
I mean, it's virtually impossible.
Yeah, I'm sure not gonna run around mowing, so.
They weren't meant to be one.
So what are we going to do when one calls us up and says, the other one's mowing the lot?
You know, just a heads up, that happens in Church's Ferry and it happens in Penn, and of course the neighbors all get along there, so that's the big
Yep.
difference.
And I was gonna use Church's Ferry for example, I mean, that would be one giant tumbleweed out there if they didn't mow all that down. But, you know, everybody's happy with everybody out there.
Yeah.
But that's my question, what
But-
happens if one or the other mows that lot, then are we gonna?
We're not gonna deviate. We can't deviate. That's what got us in trouble in the first place.
Deviate from FEMA regulation?
No, we can't. We,
They went along
So,
with it?
but, yeah, I understand that, but what is the consequence if they mow it? I mean, is somebody gonna be arrested?
Cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay, well, I'm just kinda
just,
curious,
we have to find out what the trespassing, fines are and
cause you know it's gonna happen.
issue them accordingly.
That's something that could be addressed with zoning on that type of property that the county owns.
We can bring it up at the next planning
Well, we're gonna, yeah,
meeting.
you're gonna have to have a set policy on how you're gonna handle it, because otherwise it's gonna be one person says this and one person says the next
Absolutely.
thing, and it has to be done anyway across all the properties, otherwise.
How wide is
Has to be
this lot?
equitable.
300 feet?
No, 150 maybe.
Yeah, it's like a ranch style house wide, but it's really deep.
Yeah, it goes way back, you know, all the way around the lake from the.
Goes out of the lake from the road.
There you can see, that's, brown and pink there. And of course, the house is gone now. This driveway was all concrete, that's all dirt or whatever, weeds growing. And this is where he tries to access, or does access his, garage.
But not
Okay.
anymore.
Now, the county just owns where the green line is?
Inside the green line. Dan Willard owns the right, and Ron Heisler owns the left side.
And there's
There's about 4 or 5 little trees, right?
yeah, right there, and there's a 4-foot fence, wooden fence up here, and a basement, or a subfloor started right here.
There's a damn fence up there. That was there all the time.
That was there. That, I believe,
all
was
it
on
is.
Heisler's property.
That's Brother Ron's, yeah.
Yeah. But
But Willard can go
when
in
he
from the
came
south.
in, all he wanted was to be able to drive this little piece right here. Well, then he,
Willard has no house over there.
no, just this garage right
I think
here.
it just goes up Jesus' garage after this.
But he can get in from the south.
There's a door there.
There's a door.
We're on the side
Yes,
door. You can
there's a
open that
door
door
there.
up so you can get the roof in there.
It's gonna be a lot more difficult, but
Like Kevin said, they put pins in, they move them, they put paint lines there, they erase them, they chalk line it, they erase them.
Put pink paint on a concrete and he took the paint off.
Took the paint right off.
If I tried to do that, I could never do it.
Told the contractor that to put them in a driveway and stuff, and
Do we have a motion?
and a second on the
We have
floor.
absolutely spent enough time counting all these. If somebody shows up and they got a problem with it.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. It's been discussed in detail. All those in favor of
Take a roll call.
roll call for the motion on the floor. Do you want to read it to us, Betty?
Sure. Motion by Brown, seconded by Lightfon, to follow the FEMA regulations in accordance with the law on every bought-out lot in Ramsey County.
Anything to add?
I'm fine with it.
I have a question, just because it's gonna come to me later today, I'm sure. Okay, so we're gonna go by FEMA regulations, what's gonna prevent Willard from coming in and saying they're mowing Church's Ferry? So we're gonna have to stop letting everybody
Ask him
mow.
if he wants to file a complaint. If he does want to file a complaint, he can go to the Ramsey County Sheriff and try to
go through the channels.
Okay,
and go through
I'm
the
just
channels.
curious, because you know it's gonna come up.
Of course it
You
will.
absolutely know it's coming up.
And that's why I'm saying there has to be almost a set policy that says we just can't allow it at all.
We can't allow anything. And I think that's what we're
kinda silly,
voting.
but-
I know
Well,
that,
it's
and I believe
ridiculous.
that that's what we're voting on at this point. A policy.
Kevin, you need the motions, all right?
I do, yeah, should fit every property we have.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please. Wilson?
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Brown. Heisler.
Aye.
Somewhere there should be a list of all those properties, be interesting to see those.
Sandy might know.
If
Sandy might have
If
it.
Sandy has
Yeah,
a list,
that's
but
a
then
good
we
idea.
have a
Let's
gal
do a
up north
compilation.
doing some of them too.
Yeah, I have those.
You
Well,
have
and there's
those,
such
so we'll
a,
combine that list.
the
Just
buyouts vary so much.
We're gonna get phone calls on it, Ed, so we better know where they are.
Letter
Cross
from,
that bridge when we get there.
is there any other old business we need to cover? Moving on to new business. The letter from the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund. You gentlemen have all had time to read that. Have we got anything, Betty, saying what we're getting back this year, if anything?
Not yet.
Okay. Anything that needs to come before the board in the form of a motion on it?
It's just for your review.
We have an abatement on file here.
Second.
Discussion? I'm trying to understand why the widow of a disabled veteran has to reapply for a tax credit.
It's for 2015,
Yeah, it's just.
and
she filed it.
sometimes they forget to file before we put it on the property in November. So the abatement processes we have to go through.
So it's the same type of abatement, and that is
Yes,
for
it's-
disabled veteran
It's
tax
a
credit.
VA credit abatement.
Yeah,
Okay.
she just missed the date that it had to file by as well,
Right.
so we have to approve the late files.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The letter from Garrison Diversion.
Do we have a county park board?
No,
Board.
it's just-
Water board.
Not the park board, no. Yeah, not the park board, park and recreation. We don't have a recreation committee.
I think I gave this to Susie Kenner one year, and they applied for Garrison Diversion for, I think, having her, was that part of this?
What, a boat
Her
ramp?
grant, yeah.
I think they did do a boat ramp.
Susie Kenner.
She,
They had a tourism. Tourism.
Maybe Paula wanted it, huh?
Paula and Susie both have the letter.
Yeah. Yeah, and the city park board is, if I remember right, the Ruger Park, playground area was paid for another year.
Do you think they're gonna address this then, or?
Oh, I think they will.
Apply?
I believe so.
I think they use it every year.
Did they contact them?
No, I don't know how this
They both have.
outdoor heritage fund is different, so, you know, but garrison diversion funds, I'm not sure of the exact guidelines for those, but.
They shut down a lot of that funding already.
Yeah. Okay. I'll reiterate to Susie and Paula. We'll move on to the letter from North Central Planning.
Looks like Sandy's, or Michelle is just inviting everybody to come to the meeting that they kick off for this stuff that I've been talking about, where you can apply for these grants and stuff.
Nobody in Ramsey County applied for any of these grants last year.
Community development block grants.
Nobody applied last year?
Nobody from Ramsey County.
They had several other commitments in other counties too, so. The people who come, they see what's out there and they know what's going on, and usually we'd like to finish up one before. But I keep asking, and I've asked Scott when he was on and stuff, to go to these small towns and ask, but Rocket's already got a new sewer system in town, Edmore got a whole bunch of money for their nursing home, windows and stuff like that, so.
They can be used for a lot of different things.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
correct.
Well,
They didn't put an elevator in the concert hall or whatever, and
New Rockford.
both that and Canby.
Yep.
Yeah, it might be
And
something
so-
to bring up to Brockett if they don't get that grant for their sidewalks. Maybe
Yep.
it'd be another funding
Yep.
source they could use for something.
So they might as well apply, and, but I keep bringing it up every year, but that's the reason why nobody applies, if they, unless they got somebody aggressive in their city council that wants to do it. It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
How about search and rescue?
Would we have applied for a block grant for that? Search and rescue?
That's something that we'd have to ask.
Yeah, are there guidelines that has to be smaller communities or something?
You guys just.
We serve every
small,
community.
you say nothing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We got the chairlift in between the two buildings here that go up and down into the basement.
Maybe it's something we could look
I
at.
don't know why we couldn't get on that program as far as search and rescue.
I believe that Steve went to Sandy.
Well, we should check for sure.
Yeah.
We'll check.
We think that'd be done by April 21st. And I'm sure the sooner you get in,
Say, Bill, how about the safe house? You know, they're trying to build a new house. Can they apply for this?
Who?
The safe house.
There's getting to be new rules and regulations on that too, so just have them go and ask. I mean, that's what they're having, they're inviting us to go and find out.
Let's make a note of it and get to Nelson on search and rescue.
Okay. Then we have a contract and voucher for leasing construction for the Lake Region Search and Rescue payment. It involves the down payment for the building itself. And that would be $50,000 down to order the building with monthly progress payments on completed work. We have been asked to choose any or all of 6 options.
And you're all in 6 options.
Oh,
on this
The front
proposal.
page, yeah.
On the contract.
Well, this is listing what he's gonna do, right?
Yep. The 3 bottom ones are if funding is available.
Well, we approved a certain dollar.
Right, it's the first 3.
So the first 3, and then after that, those are additionals.
Yeah, the additionals.
So they want us to approve the additional ones or just the first three?
Circle and initial the first 3 for now is what Steve recommends when he was in.
This one
And then
you want me to sign?
the optional ones are the last 3.
So we need to do that now?
Yeah, they want the contract signed so they can order the building.
Yeah, for the last three?
We need to get the floor and and base bid.
Yeah, we probably know something about that.
Just, if you look at the top where I highlighted, choose any or all of the options, circle each number chosen and initial by it. Because when he brought the first contract in, when you guys made the motion back in, if you you see I attached the motion from January 19th.
Yep.
You guys just approved the building, not the furnaces. So that's what we're asking is if you just approve first on the contract now and then the additional later furnaces.
Well,
So that, go ahead.
that 346, 565 includes numbers 1 through 3.
Right,
Not,
and
not
that
4 through
included-
6?
No, but that included the primary heating source of the in-floor heating.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were looking at the possibility of putting in a secondary heating source just in case they didn't want to use the floor heat, I think is what it came down to. Which, I don't know if that's.
And he was gonna be using some of the donation money and stuff for the other,
Yeah,
for the options. So they've already got a good start on all the bottom options, but we need to
just approve,
get the floor.
essentially, we're approving the contract for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
I missed that, the boiler is included in number 3.
Yeah, the boiler, it's got, they were just looking at the secondary heating option, and then if we wanted to put the concrete apron out front. Which, like you said, we've got some donations, so if we want to tack, if they want to tack those on, they can probably use donations.
They want a finalization on 4, 5, and 6, do you know, Kevin?
No,
Not at this
Mark?
point.
no, they don't, they want 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's all
And
they
they need
want
$50,000
To start it.
to start.
so Gleason can order the building.
Basically, 1, 2, 3 were in that bid.
That's done, yeah.
So all we need to do is approve the 50 at a time. How do you do that?
Well, the amount is different than what we originally, the Gleason Construction, asked for.
They want it lower.
They want, the amount is, for these three is lowered.
Right,
$3,047.
They took out 3,000 left.
Yes.
Than what we had.
They took out the door, yeah,
They took out the door.
They took out a door?
Okay.
an overhead door.
It'll be one bay that won't have a door for like storage or something like that, whatever, you know, like there's their air equipment, in other words, kind of like a partitioned area off that won't need an overhead.
Oh, I get what you're saying, so they're gonna have one complete bay that just doesn't have access, but you can just drive something in from the
Drive something
inside.
in and
Yeah.
store it.
No, so they just decided they didn't need that extra.
Move the vehicle out of the way and drive it in
No, that's what they wanted.
Okay, go back to Elizabeth. How do we pay her 50,000?
50,000. Steve put it in his budget, so we will take it out of his budget line that we have the money set aside for. And then once we get the loan in April, first part of April, that'll go into a fund specifically for that building. And it'll be general fund money, and that's where Steve's budget is too.
Oh, so they'll just basically get repaid his $50,000 back.
there.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's in his budget, so it won't get repaid, but we'll have an account system set up so we can keep track of the spending
Oh, okay.
and revenue. So,
Make a motion to pay the down payment.
Second.
do you want to approve the contract?
We should
first?
do contract,
And the
yeah.
contract?
First,
Yeah.
And make the down payment, then 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And that's for $343,518.
And we were talking about, just a moment, we were talking about what the building would be like and stuff, or quality. The Ramsey County Fair building is built by Gleason.
It is the same.
I'm guessing it's probably the same,
Company.
same brand and everything, that's a nice building, ABC steel.
ABC.
Yeah, that's a nice building, so I
Okay.
assume that's probably similar.
So we have a motion, did we get a second? Okay, we have a second. We'll need roll call on this, please.
Brown?
Yes.
Mertens?
Aye.
Lightcon?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Isler?
Aye. Should we do a report on portfolios?
I do want to give Kevin some credit for, taking time out of his schedule to help Steve with all these, incidentals that come along. Kevin put in a lot of time on this, and I thank you for that.
I don't mind.
Well, I deal with that, thank you very much for helping out. Always a lot, or takes care of a lot of our questions, mine anyway. So it's,
And they are looking for every way to save a nickel. They're gonna pre-pile some fill. They're, between him and Steve, there's not a nickel rolling by that's not being
I
utilized.
think we should really encourage them to have another push for fundraising. Because the idea behind the whole project was to try to get a pretty good share of it through fundraising, and not just have the county pick up the tab. So,
Could you talk to Steve about some ideas?
Steve Nelson or?
Steve Nelson.
we get this North Central planning on one, maybe that would be helpful. I know there's so many agencies in the community that haven't given anything yet, and I think they're seeing that's moving forward, so I think it'd be easier to address them now.
Well, and especially with North Central Planning, you know, the other counties are involved in North Central Planning, and I think it's a good place to apply for money for it.
These community development block grants, though, they have to,
Yeah,
a lot of the weight that goes into those is for underprivileged or individuals that, or agencies that serve underprivileged people. So it's going to be hard to twist that in there, but we'll just have to ask Michelle.
Now, let's move on to the report on portfolios. Mark?
I told you last meeting, we have a new director at the museum. She plans to be here on the first week of April. Everything else seems to be moving along fairly well.
Let's see, I went to the training session last week with the staff in the afternoon on the village hall. That was kind of interesting. So I echo Beth's comments. It was good. So I kind of wanted to see what the village provides us in those things, just so going forward, I know what we're getting at least from the paying for it, so it was good. I missed the chamber meeting yesterday because I had another commitment, I had to be on a conference call for something else, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. County Housing Authority, we're dealing with, they upgraded all the security cameras in the building and also looking at doing some capital improvements. Occupancy is good there, so they're moving along pretty well. We just approved, or looked at, we're going to be, the audit's coming back in March, so we'll be looking at that pretty quickly, make sure everything's clean. In terms of in the building, treasurer, they're working on sending out statements again if people miss their first payment on or the deadline, so that people kind of get a reminder that property taxes were due the 15th and you can do a split payment. Doing reminders to pretty much everybody. They're working on that now. The recorder's office, she's working on, we've mentioned before, they had some problems with the scanning project previously. So she is looking at doing a rebid to do some additional scanning back end to kind of fix some of the stuff, which isn't exactly what we want to do, but it looks like that's going to be the solution. So she's working on that right now, and hopefully we'll have a bid on that fairly soon. And lastly, I went to the convention center presentation yesterday. So that was kind of interesting to see where they're moving with that. So that's what I have.
Jamestown and Devils Lake are the only airports in North Dakota that are showing an increase in the last month. So we're proud of that, and the parking lot is being used, the extra area that we did is being used quite a bit. So our long-term parking and our flights to Denver are really starting to help. And part of our problem with the National Guard was that we didn't qualify for what's called a city pairs program. That means you have to have 2 flights a day. And one of our flights came in at 12:10 in the evening. So it took 3 flights into one day and only 1 into the other day. And so they didn't recognize that, so they couldn't give the military people a chance, a discount to come into Devils Lake on our plane. Grand Forks was listed as the primary plane, and we got that solved through the help of Senator Heitkamp and the FAA, and also through the airline. And so now they're gonna back that up, so it's gonna come in at 1150 or something like that. And that's gonna be a scheduled, so we'll qualify for the city pairs program now. And most of the flights will be coming in. 25% of the people who take training in Devil's Lake have been coming in, but we're shooting for 70 or 80%. And they serve about 1,500 to 1,700 people a year out there at the Regional Training Institute. So that'll help a lot. Rebid for the contract, SkyWest is interested in rebidding it, and we're hoping that they'll get it in. Every time we have a positive newspaper article, there's a negative, and I suppose everybody saw both of them. But some of the complaints from Grand Forks and Fargo are that Devil's Lake is a subsidized airport, and they don't think they're being fair with giving us an airplane in here as many times as it is taking business away from them. Why are there people coming here using our service when we have free parking and stuff like that is what our draw is? And Kevin Bond did a nice article and put it in there to counteract the negative ads. But, so the bid is coming up again, I think in April now, and we do have SkyWest interested in rebidding, so we'll be able to keep them on board. They're amazed at how much increase they've seen in traffic in the last year with both Jamestown and Devil's Lake, so it's working good. Of course, we're right at that time when our Central Planning Council is having their stuff, so anybody who can go to that, or if we can convince any of the city officials from Rocket Lawton, if they need any projects from Ed Moore, to come talk to Michelle about that. So, other than that, I don't have anything interesting.
Ed?
Yeah, law enforcement, we're having a meeting this Thursday, in March 3rd, 10:30 in the basement. Our legislators are gonna be there. We're gonna talk about alternative funding for law enforcement. What we can do. Lake Region law enforcement is not the only one in North Dakota that's having problems with their funding. So that's the meeting.
Did you see that article in the Bismarck Tribune? It said that 9 counties plan to build and expand by 2017, and North Dakota needs to expand their facilities to the point where they need to have 48% more beds within the next year. That's how much they're short. Burley County just spent $700,000 shipping out people in 2015. Local jails experienced an 82% increase in jail bed needs from 05 to 15, and presently we need 840 more beds. We need to figure out why this facility is short. I'm done.
Okay.
Hope to see you at the meeting, I guess.
The Forward Devil's Lake is having their annual meeting on March 23rd at noon at the college. They would like me to extend an invitation to everyone to attend that meeting. Senator Hoeven is the guest speaker. It's a good meeting. It lets you know a lot of things that are going on in the county, or in the community. There are several positive prospects for Ultra Green. Some of them have been here 2 and 3 times, so we're hoping that a sale plus a lease of equipment is in the works. As Adam said, the community response study for and supporting an event center is very positive in the area. However, they want it to be done without a sales tax increase. Terry, the administrator over at the city, is crunching some numbers to see how they could go about doing that, and there'll be a report on that. Plans for the refinery are moving forward. They're continuing to work on an EDA grant to develop the infrastructure in the new industrial park. There are several new board members, Tom Hart from Farmers Union, Damian Ryder from Otter Tail, Andy Lankowitz from the hospital, Philip Jerome from Jerome Wholesale, Christy Remick, who's a small business owner, James Andrews, and Bob Hatton. Giving Hearts Day was extremely successful in the Lake region for the entire community. In excess of $80,000 was raised, and pretty proud of the community for that. A great effort by the Area Foundation. I want to thank you, Ed, for setting up that law enforcement meeting to
See how it goes.
brainstorm how it was. I'm sorry I won't be able to attend. I got the notice of it too late. I couldn't change my flight without paying my right leg, so I can't be there. I have worked with the city, and I'm working with Steve that Tim and I can attend via phone.
I like, just one thing to add, that all the commissions from county, other counties are going to be here, so they said it hard.
Yes. And I spoke at length with Dennis Johnson yesterday. He and Mr. Elke are going to Bismarck tomorrow to meet with Leanne Birch and other individuals from the state penitentiary. Attend Care is supposed to be opening today. I'm not sure whether that's happening. Sandy's mother-in-law passed away. Might have to wait till tomorrow. Social services, we continue to deal with the issue of children born addicted, and I can't say addicted, but with positive for substances in their systems at birth. 14 of 31 infants born at Mercy Hospital in January tested positive. We're having some issues with senior meals. Those meetings have been rescheduled 3 times, hoping that's going to get done. We are in the process of advertising for a new library director, hoping that's going to be happening. We hope to have someone hired by the 1st of June to come on board by the 1st of August. District Health Department, they just completed sewer training for contractors. There were over 100 contractors in attendance. That is over double what was there last year. And just as an aside, the budget for District Health Unit for 2015 was over 200% over in projected revenue with the environmental health issues. So they're working very hard on that. You got everything from Stacy and Betty. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Everything's working good.
The vacation was good.
Vacation.
It was good. Okay. Yep. That's all I have. Are there any other announcements?
Nice and sunny.
Motion approved.
Have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
And a second? We're adjourned.